It's Praggnanandhaa's 18th birthday today, 10th of August 2023, and he takes on Hikaru Nakamura. The second classical game between them. The first one ended in a draw. They shake hands and off we go. Round 4 of the World Cup 2023. Praggnanandhaa with his ritual of taking time before the first move. Hikaru waits for Pragg to begin. If Pragg manages to win this game, then he goes through to the next round. The same for Hikaru. If they draw the game, then it would move to the tie breaks. We have 1 hour 30 minutes for 40 moves and then an additional 30 minutes for the next phase of the game with a 30-second increment per move. What is Pragg's first move going to be? Will he open with 1 e4? Will he play d4? We'll have to see. And now, with almost a minute taken on the clock, Pragg opens with c4, the English opening. This is the same opening that Nakamura played in game number 1 against Pragg. And you can see Hikaru now adjusting his pieces. This is one thing that top players do. He could have adjusted in Pragg's time, when the game began, but that's not considered the best. So he first adjusts in his time, plays knight f6 and presses the clock. Pragg goes knight to c3 and the jacket is off for Hikaru. It's time to fight. e5. He plays this move, which now kind of is a reverse Sicilian. Knight to f3. And we have the 4 knights because Hikaru also brings his knight out. So 4 knights on the board. g3 played. Now d5 is one main move. There's also bishop b4. Now Hikaru adjusts all his pawns. And there are many interesting moves, but Hikaru goes for knight d4. This is a very interesting line. You can't take this pawn because queen e7. And notice if you go here, this is a very pretty checkmate. That's not happening. f4, d6, knight d3 and bishop coming here is great compensation for black. So Pragg does not go and snatch this pawn. Instead, he simply goes bishop g2. Now Hikaru has played a couple of games in this line before. If you look at his database, he has played online games. And so Pragg would be expecting this. Knight takes f3, bishop takes f3 has been played. So now white has this nice bishop, but what Hikaru essentially is saying that I did not like my knight on c6. It was not so well placed and I am very happy that I got to trade it with your knight. Eventually I'll put my pawn on c6 and blunt your bishop. g4, wow, what a move by Pragg. But this is not his original idea. This has been played before by Aryan Tari against Evander Liang in an online event. So Hikaru is not surprised. He quickly plays h6. That's the thing about these top players. They follow all the top level games, be it online, be it any tournament, and then it helps them to be prepared in their own games. c6 played by Hikaru. Now with g4, Pragg's idea is to expand on the king side. That is what he wants to do. Pragg goes and attacks the bishop on b4. Now if you were to take here, then this is a very clear edge because you have the bishop pair. And that's the reason why Hikaru preserves his bishop. He gets it back and you can see he's looking upwards. Both the players, when they're trying to recollect their opening analysis, they prefer not to see the board. Bishop e3 played by Pragg. Now this is a very interesting idea and Pragg has taken time. So basically he's out of his prep. His plan is to go long castle and then maybe break with d4. d6 played by Hikaru and now the g4 pawn is hanging. So a very natural move is rook g1. But Pragg does not care for his g-pawn. He simply long castles and tells Hikaru that come take this pawn because when you will take it, eventually I'll get my rook to g1 and attack your g7 pawn. And Hikaru has thought for a very long time. He's down to 42 minutes. That's not normal. for Hikaru. He takes with the knight, which is the best move there. Now, of course, the knight is attacking the bishop, so you have to take it. And I believe Pragg's going to do just that. He takes the knight on g4. And Hikaru comes back instantly and picks it up, saving a couple of seconds on the clock. Now rook g1 is definitely an idea to put pressure on g7. But Pragg, yeah, he does it. He plays rook g1, and if you protect your bishop, let's say with queen d7, then you can play f3 to kick the bishop away. Let's see how Hikaru decides to defend his bishop. He wants to move the queen there. He plays it. Queen d7, defends it. One idea is f3 to go after this pawn on g7. The other one is to actually break in the center, and Pragg does that. And he tells Hikaru that for the time being, you may have the bishop pair, you may have an extra pawn, but your king is still in the center, and I'm actually trying to open things up here. And if you take here, by the way, then after bishop d4, there is pressure here. So Hikaru decides to keep the position closed. And maybe he hopes that at some point he can connect his pawns with d5. But Pragg says, no such chance, Hikaru. I'm going d5 and I want to gain even more space. Hikaru keeps the position closed. Now, one way is to take the pawn. The other way is to push the bishop from here and to attack this. And a very interesting point is that here when you take bishop g6 is not trapping the rook, because the other rook can go here and there will be some sacrifices. But Pragg takes the pawn on e4. And this is Hikaru's move. He goes bishop f5. Now Pragg's knight is hanging, so there's no time to take the pawn on g7. He goes knight g3. He plays his knight here, attacks the bishop. Now Hikaru plays his bishop back to g6. And now for Pragg, he has the central pawn majority, which he would love to push, and that's why he goes bishop d2, a good move. The bishop will be well placed on this diagonal, and the central pawns can start rolling there. Hikaru now gets his king to safety. He long castles, and Pragg can already start playing in the center. With 30 minutes on the clock roughly for both players, this is a very evenly matched encounter. e4 played by Pragg. Now this pawn, if you get f4, f5, that can get really nasty. So he goes bishop h4. And the idea of Hikaru is that he wants to take the knight and pick up this pawn in the center. So Pragg can actually play f3, but that stops his plan with f4, f5. So he plays f3, bolsters his center, and tells Hikaru that now what's your next idea? Do you want to go f5? But that might not be the best. He goes bishop h7, and perhaps somewhere, you want to play g5, maybe f5. Those are some of the plans in the position. But bishop c3 is definitely a very interesting move. He goes king b1. And now the king going to b1 maybe can tuck itself on a1. It takes on g3. Oof. Taking this knight, and Pragg can actually take it back. He takes hg3, and now Hikaru plays f5, but Pragg has a brilliant move here. He can sacrifice a pawn and close this bishop down here. That would have been an epic move, but instead Pragg instantly took it. He took it instantly, and now Hikaru is completely fine. There was a brief moment in the game where Pragg could have been very, very seriously better. And you can see that Hikaru has this feeling that the position is equal, and I can't play for a win and maybe have to agree to a draw pretty soon. That's the situation, because you have opposite colored bishops here and not too many attacking chances. for each side because not too many pieces on the board as well. Hikaru plays h5, stopping these two white pawns. Rook e1 played by Pragg, and now his idea is to enter the camp with rook e6 perhaps. Queen goes to c2. Whoo! Nice move there by Hikaru Nakamura. He wants to trade the queens, and Pragg says, you can take them. I'm just developing my bishop. I'm attacking the pawn on g7. So Hikaru chops off the queen. A takes b3. And now you can, if you play g6, that really spoils your entire coordination. Your bishop is completely closed. So either you go rook f7 or rook d7. He goes rook f7. The ideal setup would be bishop coming to f5 and then the pawn to g6. And that would be just very equal. He goes b4, breaking the center there. And Hikaru just takes it. Pawn takes. Pragg would take it back. This is move number 29. Both players have 12 minutes. The position is relatively easy to play. So, and bishop f5. The idea is now to put his pawn on g6, and that would be fine. Pragg goes b3, and he wants his king to maybe come up this way. So king to d7, and now the king comes up to b2. Rook e7 played. We can trade the rooks here. Yes, and as it's the kind of only open file on the board, pieces are going to be traded there, and eventually I believe that the players will most likely agree to a draw. You generally can sense from the energy of the players as to how critical the position is. But here, for Hikaru to play rook e8 might not be so simple because the d6 pawn would be weak. But Pragg goes c5, and actually that kind of helps Hikaru because now after take, bishop takes, and there is an idea of rook e7 check as well as bishop takes on a7. So he goes rook e8 and tells Pragg that if you take here, I'm happy with giving up a pawn on a7 because after bishop e4 your pawn would be hanging eventually, and I mean it would be a sort of drawish position there. So Pragg goes rook e5, they exchange, and now Pragg has two strong central pawns, but Hikaru attacks one of them, and if you place it on a dark square then it gets blockaded. So e6 is played, check. King e8, and now Pragg pushes his pawn to d6. If somehow magically he can get d7 and a check from here, he's winning. But of course Hikaru is not going to allow that. He plays bishop e6, puts the pressure on the pawn. Pragg gives a check, and now after king d8, Hikaru knows it's a draw, so he comes back at peace and goes king d8, and after bishop d4 I think they've offered a draw and Hikaru takes it. The game ends in a draw there. They both played really well. Pragg had that one chance, but there they are, they're analyzing, and Pragg is sort of in a good spirits there. It's his birthday today, but the match gets into tie breaks now with 1-1, and it will be interesting to see if Pragg will be able to handle Hikaru's amazing rapid and blitz play. He's one of the best in the world, but Pragg is young and confident, and it will be interesting to see how things pan out.